I call the council for July 28th to order. Please stand. Jamie, you want to start?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, roll call.
Footstrand. Zeke Reister, Shane Bear, Mike Bedard.
Travis McMaster.
Travis, okay. Rob is absent. Excused. I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Don't we move to motion to see? Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, we do. We instituted the motion to excuse Rob. He asked for it. We're giving it to him, but I would need.
I move to excuse Councilmember Rob Eaton. Second.
Being moved and seconded, all in favor, let me see your hands. The passes unanimously. Now we had. Ian and then who seconded? Huh?
Shane, I think.
Jay did.
Oh.
Oh, whatever, sure. The consent agenda, all those in favor, let me see your hands. And that also passes again. Okay, before we get into the meeting, just a reminder that here in this place, we're respectful of each other. We acknowledge that it's okay if we don't agree on it. Yes, sir.
I apologize. I was hasty. I would like to amend the consent agenda, only that it showed me as being present in the June 23rd city council meeting, and I was not here.
You were not here?
Not here. It was the long.
Well, we felt the presence anyway.
I will fix it.
We will fix that.
Thank you.
Thanks for that.
Yeah.
Prior to making any comments, you must be recognized by the chair. We ask you come and address the council and staff as a whole and not individuals. Come to the podium, state your name and address. Keep your comments focused on the topic that's being discussed, unless you are here to make comments to us on items not on the agenda. And that is actually the first thing that we do, is we ask if anybody would like to speak to us who isn't on the agenda. Yeah. Come up to the podium and share name and address and.
How y'all do this night? So my name is Jeff Beauregard Harris. I live at 9898 East Leavenworth Road. And we're the first house on Highway 2 there. And we got the hangers on our garbage cans. My neighborhood did just recently for the Bearwise program, which I think is great for public safety, for the animal safety, all that. And but I was we've had an ongoing problem with I think transient people under the bridge on the Leavenworth side. From the pollution to the public urination to the defecation, I mean, our property literally looks right at that. And probably 3 weeks ago, a bunch of the neighbors got together and went over and cleaned up all the countless garbage bags, like grocery bags and trash all over the hillside. So the Bearwise flyer thing was just kind of a reminder. We've spoke with the sheriff's department because and the reason I think that it's almost transient, they're problem type people, is we'll hear screaming at 2 a.m, just out of their mind. And it's been going on for years, and they kind of come and go. Obviously the winter, they kind of move on, but anyway, there's currently a person under there that cleaned it up 3 weeks ago, and it took 3 weeks for it to be pretty much right back to where it is. So with the Bearwise flyer, I'm sitting here going, okay, so we're all trying to be good stewards and doing the part and trying to keep the garbage out from the bears and whatnot. But I look at my backyard and I see a hillside covered in garbage. So I talked to a person at the Department of Fish and Wildlife, and I asked them, because I said to the sheriff, the state patrol, the DOT, the Department of Ecology, because this trash is making its way slowly down to the river. one good windstorm, and garbage bags blown into the river, too, so. And I've got some reaction over the years. I think the DOT came in, cleaned it up once. But then it just, kind of goes away, because it's under the bridge, people don't see it unless you're recreating on the river. And, but when I spoke to the Department of Fish and Wildlife, and I said, I asked them, how's that gonna work if, somebody's trying to keep the garbage away from the bears are getting into it, you're saying that person could be fined. Are you gonna find this individual? There's a guy that's been living under there for a while, we see the same person. And the gal that answered the phone said, well, let me talk to the enforcement agent, he's in here right now. So she called me back and said, yeah, there's really nothing we can do because we can fine him, but he's not gonna pay the fine. And I find some real irony in that law-abiding, tax-paying citizen is trying to, support your guys' program. Could get fined, but somebody, could just litter an entire hillside under the bridge. And, over and over throughout the years, not to mention, impact on property values and, so, I'm kind of at a loss for who do I talk to? I know that I work for a public entity as well, and I don't deal directly with the public, but who I work for does. And, I know that we try to, be good stewards, for what I do. And I know you guys are too. I haven't talked to anybody in the city yet about it. And it's DOT property is my understanding. So, but it's, I'm not, when somebody's breaking the law, they're breaking the law. And when they become, a public nuisance and now they're just spewing garbage everywhere and people have to look at it. I don't know who to talk to or, what to do. So I'm just asking for you guys to, I know you got a lot to do and I'm just asking you to, take it under advisement or whatever. If you have contacts that you can reach out to and maybe, see if there's something they can do to, try to fix the problem. And we see bears under there too. So anyway, I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you guys and you got a lot to do, so we'll be heading out. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Anybody else? All right. Seeing no one, we'll move on. We've got. First, Mike. Give us your report. Okay.
So right now, as most everybody knows, we've been experiencing critical fuel moisture. It's fully fire season here. The fire danger is kind of bouncing between very high and extreme. It's not going to drop below very high. You don't see the signs change because they sort of wait for it to be under those indices for at least a week or two. And it kind of goes into extreme, drops back down to very high. But the fuel moistures are pretty terrible, about as between about the 95th and 100th percentile every day. So we're setting some records. Some days are just close to as bad as it's been. So really, we're not going to see much relief from fire season until we start to see some precipitation and some temperatures drop. So probably October. As far as our training, we did have a citizen down in the city that donated a structure that was about to get demolished. Obviously, it was in the center core. It's on a burn ban, so it wasn't something we were going to try to do a live burn on. But we did get to use simulated smoke to do some fire suppression and rescue evolutions, and then we were able to practice a bunch of forcible entry and search techniques that we normally don't get to do because they're somewhat destructive. We did some vinegar search. Mike's familiar with that, and then of course we had to force all the doors. So the interior doors don't put up much of a fight, but it's good. It's good exercise. Response is our big category. I put several specific fires in here. We responded to, I don't know how many, mutual aid requests. The ones I kind of struck out here, other than Chelan Hills, which was a mutual aid request, are all state mobilizations. So we've had people out pretty much since mid to late June. The big one was on the 4th of July. We sent Engine 31 to Chelan Hills to provide structure protection. During the day on the 4th, I think they left out here about 5 o'clock in the morning. In the afternoon of that day, the strike team they were assigned to, along with their whole division, ended up getting cut off. In case anyone didn't heard, McNeil Canyon essentially had a blow up. While they were up there getting ready for structure protection, the fire hooked to the bottom of the canyon. Winds and slope aligned, and they talking to the IC sounds like McNeil burned from the bottom to the top in about 15 minutes. So they were running from that. They got cut off from their escape route, which was McNeil Canyon Road. They couldn't go back down. They ended up taking shelter in a stubble field as the fire got there and burned them over. Our engine sustained some minor damage and melted some airlines that temporarily disabled it. The crew was able to get some help from a mechanic on another rig and make some repairs, and they were able to get it going within an hour. In that same area they were in, a Washington DNR state rig was completely destroyed, and Stevens County brush truck sustained some pretty serious damage. But no firefighter injuries were reported in that area. There could have been some on the other parts of the fire. I'm not sure. So DNR is doing a facilitated learning analysis of what occurred up there. We've already got some lessons learned. There's been a few critical incident stress management meetings, and then they've done after action reporting. So we have a lot of lessons learned. But the big one was that the fuel moistures and how dry it is sort of unprecedented. Normally you would recognize that looking around, but people have seen fire behavior in that area and they've never seen it do that. So that's the lesson we took away from it. You have to be extra careful when you're seeing fuel mixtures like this. 5 days later, we sent one of our brush trucks up to Okanagan for the B&O fire. That was an immediate need request from Okanagan County. It's a form of state road, but it's where they call the neighboring counties, and essentially they do an all-call, and any fire districts in the county that have the consented unit will send them up there. And they were there through the night and ended up getting released later the next day when those other state road resources can arrive and take over. On the 17th, that same brush truck went up to Nisqually for the Kaiser Canyon fire. They had our brush truck, and we actually sent 2 strike teams from Mid-Columbia, which is Chelan, Douglas, and Grant County. So we had 2 of them up there. Our personnel reported saving 4 structures, just their rig. Other trucks reported having similar success. Unfortunately, for that original fire, there did end up being 13 homes destroyed. And the crew came back the following week. They did have another kind of completely unrelated, just bad luck fire in Nisqually that burned some structures down. Wasn't actually related to that fire. It was a new start in the very small area that was left. It didn't burn. So just really unfortunate situation for the folks in Nisqually. And then our crew got back today from White Swan fire down outside of Yakima. They were only there for a couple of days. Outside of state modes and brush fires, we responded to 383 calls in 2026, which is down from 395 the same day last year. But we've been extremely busy with all the brush fires, as well as kind of our normal call volume picking up in the summer. But yeah, it's been the month of July has been pretty insane, and I don't foresee that August is going to be much of a break. So I guess we'll rest in October.
For rain.
Yeah, there you go.
No, like.
Any questions for me?
Questions?
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, well, normally I was expecting us to be able to welcome our new liaison from the sheriff's department. He's going to be here with Randy, but both Randy and Jared are not here, so I'm assuming they're busy. Because I didn't talk to them earlier, and that was the plan. So the other safety report can go now to our presentation from the government. Kaylin.
Thank you.
Good to see a lot of you lately, Kim.
I know, hopefully we can keep this interesting and not have it weird. All information here right now. Oh, sure. Thank you. How do I? Well, you all know me. I'm Kaylin. I'm the executive director of Upper Valley Med, and I'm here today to just kind of give you an update on med services, where we're at, trends, how things have been going. I've been talking to you a lot about housing stuff, so that's a minimal part of this conversation. And we'll talk a little bit more about some other things. So You all know us at Prevailing Mind, our vision is an empowered community with equitable access to food, housing, wellness, and economic security, in Upper Valley. So we work in 5 areas. We have food, housing, wellness, economic security, and then thrift, low cost goods. And so I'm gonna focus tonight on food, wellness, and economic security, and a little bit on Joss thrift. But just to give you kind of an overview of the things that we do, we have the community covered and the associated food cleaning program. Our affordable housing program has our affordable homeownership and the affordable rentals, and then the rental assistance program where we help people pay rent in times of crisis. Our wellness program has the free health clinic and then a bunch of associated programs that I'll talk about. Our economic security program, we have a social worker and we help people pay their bills. And then Joss Thrift provides low cost goods and is a revenue generator. So the reason that I kind of wanted to focus on the other areas outside of housing is that we do a lot, and I think I lost a label down here, but we do a lot of support for folks. The greatest number of folks that we help are through the community covered. So this green area is our food programs. That's like 3,300 people. Financial assistance, we help in 2025, we helped 477 people. The free health clinic saw 265 patients, and then the housing program is 143. So more folks who are stably housed every month and getting that, ongoing support. But in terms of the number of people that we support, the food pantry is the vast majority.
Is that individual? That's individual.
This is the individual speaking, yeah, versus household. So sometimes we talk about households and sometimes we talk about individuals. So in this case, it's individuals. So this is the community covered. You're all familiar with this. This is, of course, co-located on one parcel with the city green shed in the back and the covered in the front. The city's been donating this space, or I guess renting the space to Upper for some number of decades, more than 3. We don't know exactly when it started, for $1 a year. So this has been a really wonderful partnership for a long time with you guys, and we appreciate that very much. So I wanted to just give you an idea of the food pantry and sort of what we're seeing, how it works. For those of you, I think most of you have been on a tour with me at the cupboard, but it may have been years ago and things have gotten a lot busier in that time. So I went into the cupboard the morning that this presentation was due to just get some photos of kind of what does it look like in the cupboard on a random morning. And these are some photos that I took, and everyone's blurred out so that I could do this without getting media at the moment. But you can see it's a busy place. So we've got shoppers coming in the door, people kind of shopping, they kind of wrap through the food pantry, and then this is the line coming out. And this is folks checking, our volunteers and staff checking people out. So it's a busy place. These are sort of what you would see as you come into the food pantry. So we have a shopping model. So you come into the food pantry, we're open 6 days a week, and every household gets 150 points per month that they can use as often, or they can come in every day and use a few points, or they can come in once a month and use all 150. So folks come in and they shop for what they want, and they can use those points pretty much however they want to, with the caveat that we have limits on the things that we purchase. So like you'll see olive oil here and peanut butter, those things we purchase, and we have a food purchasing budget of about $100,000 a year. So those things, households can only get one of those per month. Everything else is open and available for however much folks want. And we try to really incentivize healthier food with lower points. So that's something different that you'd see at the cupboard than you would at the grocery store. In here, you'll see this is like a cooler space. We have on the bottom, there's eggs up here and tortillas. All of those things are things we also purchase. And then in the middle, this is our grocery rescue area where we go to Safeway. Volunteers that work with us go to Safeway, Dan's, and Sage every day and pick up the expired or nearly expired, not quite expired food. And we move that every day. So everything that we bring in is gone by the end of the day. Almost all the time. I want to say all the time, but not. almost all the time. So folks can come in and that really is helpful for folks who don't have solid refrigeration. So, you know, we have a lot of people, you heard from the first gentleman who, you know, discussed some of the needs in our community. And those folks might come in every day, to get food, you know, when they don't have stable refrigeration. We also provide garbage for those items, so people can come. And then this is the line to get out of the food pantry. So we try to move people through quickly, but it certainly is a busy place, especially in the beginning of the day. So for some of you that have been on the tour with me, in, you know, when you started, usually I try to take folks when they start on the council. Things have really ramped up in recent years. So, you know, 2018 to 2022, we really saw some pretty consistent numbers. 2021, things kind of dropped right around when people were getting stimulus checks, SNAP benefits were up. There was a lot of support during COVID, and so we did see a dip during that time. And then since then, it's really climbed, and I anticipate that last bar is 2026. We've already seen about 1,400 households this year, and we anticipate that we'll far exceed 2025 by the time it's the end of the year. And the things that people are reporting are the things that you guys probably all know about, right? Gas is very expensive, housing is very expensive, groceries are very expensive, wages are not necessarily going up at the same rate as those things. So it's a common story, that, you know, we're hearing all across the country, but it's certainly impactful for folks locally. I wanted to show you some heat maps of kind of where people are coming from. These are a little bit outdated. We did these in 2023, so, you know, way back when numbers were down here. But it still gives you an idea because it's still, I think, a similar breakdown, just probably hotter. Heat maps are probably hotter. So Leavenworth is our primary service area and is where most of the folks are coming from. Blue is, you know, the coldest, yellow, and then red is the most. Our service area, our primary service area is the Cascade School District, so folks can come from anywhere, but that's where we really are trying to focus on making sure people have food. So, you know, Shaston, Dryden, Kashmir, Wenatchee, Blue Pass, up to Chumstick. So really, you know, pretty well spread around the valley with a concentration in the Leavenworth area. And then this is Leavenworth itself, so, you know, just hopefully can show you that there are folks everywhere in our community who need food assistance. This is not like one, you know, part or demographic in our community. It's really kind of widespread, that folks need a little bit of extra help. So in terms of where the food comes from, it's kind of a complicated web, but is important. It's about $500,000 worth of food that we bring in and give out per year. Like I said, about 100,000 of that is purchased and the rest of that comes from another source. So I'll start up here with gleaning. So our gleaning program is really active this time of year. We have volunteer groups that go out to farms and orchards and harvest excess produce that would otherwise, you know, rot in field. And we get that into primarily the cupboard, but we also have our mobile food pantry, which is a big refrigerated Sprinter van that you might see driving around. And we go out to different places and distribute food with that produce pantry as well. So primarily right now we're going to like migrant camps and health fairs, and distributing both produce and shelf stable food out there. We also distribute some of that food to like the jail. The jails are one of our big partners. They'll take any gleaned produce, which is very helpful. But we primarily at this point, because we're so busy, we are distributing most of that food through the cupboard. Community Action Council is the big food bank down in Wenatchee. So they're the ones who get like what you would consider government food and work with some of the big state and federal partners and bring in food and distribute it to us. It's about a quarter of food that we get is from Community Action Council. And that's going to be things primarily like canned goods and shelf stable bulk items that we repackage and distribute. Grocery rescue, like I said, is a really big part of what we do. The variety of food that we get, the meat that we get from primarily Safeway, where you see like the discount meat, that all is coming into the cupboard and going straight into our freezer. if it doesn't sell by that certain date. So a lot of the food that we can distribute, that we wouldn't otherwise get is coming from grocery rescue, so that's a great way, and it's also not even from one, so it's like, you know, otherwise it'd be going in the dumpster, so let's be cool. And then our food purchasing budget, we also are buying from Safeway and from Dan's and then Costco and Cisco and URM, and Walmart and Waco, and we're shopping everything out, trying to get the best. Food drives are a really important part of what we do and community donations, so, you know, folks, churches or community groups, or people who are like harvesting garden produce and bringing it in. All that stuff is really helpful and makes up this big web of food. So my ask for you is the same as every time I can talk to you about coverage. Help us figure out what to do. So really, you know, we talked about this about a year and a half ago when you guys were talking with UD about potentially moving public works. Now that you're looking at keeping it on the same campus, our ask is really, you know, include us in your process, in your space planning. We have, you know, we've been saving money, we've got grant opportunities, we've got donors who are hungry to make this happen, so we really want to work with you guys to be a part of that campus. And Andy and I have talked and have walked the property, and so that's been really great. And just, you know, hoping for support from the council to be able to continue that relationship and really identify ways that we can all work together. It's very exciting. Okay, that's all I have on food, and I'll have some time for questions at the end. Just want to give you kind of a brief overview of the other services that hopefully you know about, but maybe you don't. So Liz, who hates that I put her face on things, but I don't know who she is. She's our social worker, and she's really our face for folks who have kind of deeper needs than any one of our programs can meet. She has a master's in social work. She's worked in crisis before, and she's an excellent person to help us, you know, help folks who have challenging situations. All of our services are voluntary, and so that is a hard thing, right? If people don't want to seek support from us, they don't have to. But she's there for anyone who does want to get, you know, support. The financial assistance program that she administers, we do about $200,000 a year in financial assistance for folks, and most of that is rent assistance. So as you all know, our economy is made up of highly seasonal jobs, tourism and hospitality and agriculture, which, you know, are very much up and down and hard to predict. So we see a lot of folks who, you know, planned that December was going to be a really busy work month, and then the storm hit and they couldn't work, and so now they need help paying their rent. Or like last ag season, a lot of people didn't have the amount of work they intended or expected. So we see a lot of folks with that sort of one-time rent assistance, and that's a partnership with the county. They help pay for that, that rent payment, so that we're keeping people stably housed. There's a lot less expensive to keep people in their house than to rehouse them after that. And then we do a bunch of other kind of odds and ends financial assistance as well. Last year, we did about $3,000 that we paid to the city in utility bills. So folks who are not able to keep up on their bills and have shut off notice, we can help with that. We do some swim vouchers for swim lessons at the pool, helping kids who their families otherwise wouldn't be able to afford swim lessons. So that's primarily how we do financial assistance, the relationship with the city. We also help, like if someone is on the front end of a housing plan and they're gonna get into stable housing or they're gonna get into a shelter, but it's gonna be a few days, we can put someone up in a hotel for a short-term stay. But Liz really screens those people because we have, you know, relationships with the hotels that we don't want to burn. So there's a process for that, but we help people as they're you know, getting into more stable housing. A lot of that is like domestic violence situations where someone needs support as they're, you know, transitioning out of their housing and into something else. So that is an important part of what we do. Transportation, we get people bus tickets or tanks of gas, help them get to their final destination. I don't think we've ever done plane tickets, but you know, if someone's got stable housing, we put people on buses like to Florida because that's where their family is and that's where their stable housing is. So we can do some of that. Free clothing through Dust Thrift, we do a lot of like, people need clothes for interviews or, you know, seasonally appropriate clothing. Folks who've been living outside in their house, their clothes are just not, suitable, we can help them with free clothes. And then Liz is also making referrals and helping people fill out paperwork and helping, you know, navigate the systems that are really complicated. I'm on the housing authority board, so I love the housing authority, but sometimes their paperwork can be really challenging. So, you know, helping people get through some of those bureaucratic processes is really helpful for folks. And sometimes wait lists can be really long, so helping. In terms of financial assistance that we've provided, it's similar to what we have been seeing in the food pantry, just a lot more folks coming in. We hired Liz and started that having social worker on staff in 2021, so that's also probably part of the increase that we've been seeing, is just there's a more consistent available there. And then wellness, so we have a free health clinic on Monday nights at Cascade Medical. They provide the space, we provide all of the providers and nurses, receptionists, translators. That has gotten a lot busier, people's healthcare has been cut back for a lot of folks, and so we used to see maximum of about 6 people in our hour-and-a-half clinic, and now we're seeing like 18, something like that. So we've staffed up, added additional providers. It's all volunteer run, so even Carl Kranz, who runs the whole program, is a volunteer. So we don't want to expand it any more than that, but we're hoping to be able to at least keep pace with the folks that walk in. So that's just our walk-in clinic. And then it's, you know, small town opportunistic situations where providers come to us and say, I'm an acupuncturist, I'd love to volunteer. Great, now we have an acupuncturist at free clinic, and we have a foot clinic once a month, and so there's all kinds of different things that kind of come up as people volunteer and as the needs make themselves clear. For dental, we refer generally down to a dentist in Kashmir, Dr. Busk, who's willing to really work with our patients and kind of try to make things financially viable for them, and then we help pay the bills. We can refer to specialty providers if folks need that, and help pay the bills. So there's some flexibility around people that come in through the free clinic, helping them kind of take the next step if they need it as well. Housing, I'm not going to touch on too much. We have a housing program with soon to be 57 units. The city has helped with 37 of those in the last 4 years, so that's a really big deal. It's like not an insignificant amount, so thank you guys. This is the duplex that is in the process of being sold right now. We had the ribbon cutting a couple weeks ago, and then this is one of our newly renovated apartments on Prescott Street. So, but yeah, this is the map of where everything is. So all of our housing is in the city of Leavenworth. Red is rentals, blue is homeownership, and yellow is soon to be, you know, in the pipeline projects. So spread all over town. We love that. I have a huge bias towards scattered site affordable housing because it's just tucked in. Nobody knows that something is affordable or not affordable. It's just available and, you know, part of our community. So we don't have signs that say fantastic. And I love when people say, I didn't know that was up around 10,000. Dust Thrift is an important part of both the revenue generating side and providing low cost goods to the folks in town. In gross sales, we do about $500,000 a year in sales here, and then that nets about $200,000 that mostly goes back and supports the food pantry. So that's kind of always been a symbiotic relationship since it was even housed in the covered building back in the day. And that revenue has grown kind of at the same pace that the food bank need has. So that's been great. So if you don't shop at Dust Thrift, please come. Please come. So what's next? We're preparing for, you know, the expectation of increasing need. I don't think that until economic conditions change that we're going to see a lot of change around the need increasing. So food pantry expansion is a big part of that, and that's, you know, our big request to you guys. Adding additional affordable housing, we're, you know, still working hard at growing that portfolio. And then we're going into a strategic planning process in the beginning of 2027 that will kind of guide the next 5+ years. And help us really drill down on, you know, what are the targets, how much housing are we trying to? What size are we trying to grow that portfolio to? How should everything work, right? So there will be a big public participation process for that, and we hope it will chime in on that. So it's a whole bunch of stuff that hopefully a lot of it is for review. But what questions do you guys have for me?
Questions?
Anything?
Yeah. When you, I should know the answer to this, but when we do these models where man owns the land and then the house structure itself is.
Yeah. The community interest.
Are there ongoing costs for you guys to manage that, or as you grow, is it sustainable to keep growing? Or how?
Yeah, it's a great question. So there are ongoing costs. Mostly that's staffing. So anytime somebody wants to sell their house, we have to be ready for them to sell and to oversee that transition. And so for a long time, that was a big conundrum. How do we pay for this? And that was one of the benefits of the rental program. So the rental income helps pay for our housing manager who does both property management and the CLT, you know, overseeing that process. So part of the sustainability of that is figuring out how to grow. If we grow the homeownership side more than the rental side, or if we have mortgages on rentals, and we can't use that for staffing, we have to really kind of balance how that all works. And it has been, yeah, a big challenge for us because we're making 100 or 200-year commitments to these homeowners. And the person who works with them has to know like real estate transactions and community land trusts, ground leases, and like a lot of kind of really niche housing stuff. And so I feel much better about how our sustainability is now having the diversity within our housing portfolio. But as we grow, it's something that we like are always keeping in mind. So yeah, it's a great question.
Other questions? Thank you.
Yeah.
And we hope to be able to work with you.
Look like you have like a pot, you have a pottery.
That's always how you look. Yeah. State of mind.
All right, thanks you guys. Appreciate you.
All right. Now we'll move on to our action items. And the first one, number 9, approval of the water connection for 8120 Bicycle Road. Who's taking that?
Sharing.
Okay. I like sharing.
I'll start, we'll jump into it. Thank you, Mayor. So first, I want to apologize because the highlighted yellow is where I didn't finish this. I was just telling Andrew, this is my terrible system where I highlight yellow meaning, Andy, go back and finish this. And I clearly forgot to go back to this. And then also, as you'll see, we have a discussion later on tonight to talk about 14-14-10, which is the relevant section to this because the code is not clear. And so as staff, we don't have very clear direction on how to handle this at this time. So I have this on here because this is a water availability that came into city staff. I want to be able to at least bring it to your attention at this time. And then you decide what you want to do with it from there. So, right now, it's not defined in the code when I reference in here that, okay, so let me back up. When we're talking about water connections outside the UGA, right now there's 2 ways that people can get approval, either by the city administrator, if there's demonstrated hardship, or by the city council. Either way that it's approved, there's authorization to approve up to 3 ERUs, 3 equivalent residential units, to be connected outside the UGA.
At anyone, at one.
Per calendar year. What is not defined is what it means to authorize a connection. So this year, there have been 2 that have come to the city council, but they were previously agreed to and paid for. We still promised you.
Yes, right.
Then there was a third, let me look back at my notes.
Then there was a third that was also authorized because they had their receipt showing their system development charge. Which is how we say that those have been approved. Yet it's not clear and consistent in the code what we do if someone's already paid. So we have had 3 so far this year that have already previously been paid and committed to. Yet it's not defined in the code if the 3 count when they physically connect to the system, because none of these have actually been connected yet. Or if it's when you give authorization for them to connect. So it's very confusing. It's really unclear staff. What we originally talked about doing was drafting an internal policy so that we had a clear way to determine how we're going to interpret this stuff. But instead, we added the discussion on to your meeting later tonight to try to accelerate some code revisions to make it all much more clear. Nonetheless, this is on your agenda. And I will leave it there. Yes.
So this action item that we have before us tonight, do we know, are they trying to be connected before these other 3 are connected?
Right now, this is for a property sale. So, right,
So it's for future development, they want to know
Okay,
if they have
so-
a connection.
And it's associated with lot 4, right, that's undeveloped,
It's,
right
I
next
was
to
here,
the
yeah,
existing
sorry,
irrigation, you
it's-
talked about that.
yeah, no, it's actually lot 3, so like, something happened in the council packet when it got merged, it messed with all the bubbles I had on here, so this is how it should look.
random.
This is how it looked when I put it in the, but something happened in your packet, so it is lot 3.
Oh, either way, it's not. Well,
It's based, so one thing is the date, so based on the lot creation date, it requires council approval, so it's after the date. What was the date in, it's March 12th, 1996, which is our GMA date. The date we adopted our zoning and our comp plan, BGMA plan, or like that. And so that's one trigger, it says, I mean, under water source community system. Typically it'll say city, but then here on this note, it says it's an easement. For city of Leavenworth, for installation and maintenance of the water system, so my assumption would be city water. In addition, these were 2 side-by-side short plats, which they used to allow back in the day. And these lots on the north shore plat have been connected
to the
to
city
the city system.
is it all connected within that platted easement, the 60-foot?
there's a city meeting that runs down that portion.
So it sounds like that was the intention.
Right, it sounds like whatever they did this, it was the intention that they would have these hookups, so.
And
So
we
that's,
led,
yeah,
and we led everyone else who's already hooked up to believe everyone else would be able to.
This is where we end up.
Sounds like that's the message.
Yes, so that's why we're here today.
and so in the bigger discussion is, are these already done? So you don't even need to bring them.
Well, these ones haven't paid the system development charge, so
Oh,
that's a
these-
different piece.
Oh, the other one did, but not.
These ones haven't paid the system development charge.
Oh, okay.
The 3 of them,
No, the other 3 have, this one has.
this particular hasn't been.
And so the
So-
idea is when this was short platted, they did this likely did a water availability. They said, yes, water is available for these lots.
So is lot 1 and lot 2 of this short plat already connected
I
to
can,
city water
I
with their homes?
I
They
couldn't
have
find-
septic systems, it looks like, but do they have water connection?
I couldn't find that information when
Because lots 3 and 4 are just a pasture right now.
I can only find connections to the lots to the north in the neighboring short plat, 2856. I had a hard time because these were, these used to have Icicle Road addresses when they had their original connections, and now they
Yeah,
have a
now it's a
different
private
address,
road.
and so for me, it was a little hard to dig because
Did we find any sort of well log records for any of these lots?
I mean, I haven't gone that far.
Okay.
But that's also, that's kind of beyond like what we're reviewing in the code, so that's why we haven't dug to that level of detail. If they wanna show hardship, it's on the applicant to show hardship. As the code currently reads.
So I guess, what is the ultimate ask? Because generally for people that are asking for a connection to the city who are outside of the city limits, they have to meet the criteria in our code. Have they met the criteria in our code? Or is it more of a conversation of, it was platted this way under the assumption they would just get connections? And so they don't have to meet our code and the hardships because they already have it on the face of their plat that they
To me, when I
get connected.
I'm gonna stop sharing screen and pull the codes I have. Alright, I have. Well,
It's also in our packet.
It's also in your packet.
I have that separate, sorry.
I think it's more, do you wanna, so.
I'm curious what the staff is asking us to really review and provide feedback on with regard to our action item tonight, because packet specific item was not clear to me beyond what you're really asking of us and how we are supposed to make that decision.
It would ultimately be, would you want to authorize this as a connection with the information you have, without having the applicant provide any additional proof of hardship following that path? Right now, as it reads, there's defined specific criteria for how the city administrator reviews and can authorize connections, may authorize connections, so have to authorize connections for the four specific hardship pieces. The applicant has not provided any of that detail. We have not asked them to at this point. This is more in front of you if you would like to authorize this under the council approval section of the code, in saying that this seems like it would be unclear to the property owner and you would like to grant a connection. And I also think you could, up to you, if you wanted to wait and that, yeah, if you want to not have a motion on the table and table this discussion, you can also do that too.
And part of this is, I added this to your packet before this kind of was a cart for the horse, and this all came up after reading, kind of digging into code a little bit. This is a hard one only because we've issued connections to the neighboring properties and they have the exact same, notes on the plat and recorded at the same time. So I have a little bit of hard, even though they're two separate plats, they were platted.
There's ones to the north now.
So what I'm hearing you ask essentially is, are we going to require them to offer proof of hardship, or are we essentially going to give them an exemption based on previous assumptions, based on the facts that are laid out?
That they,
When was the most recent connection for the northern plat? Cause they're all pretty new houses in there, aren't they? When were those connections authorized?
Well, that drawing was stamped 1997.
So then, well, that's when the plats happened, the houses along the private road were built recently,
let me try to find.
and that's when their connection would have been authorized.
It's crazy, 30 years ago wasn't exactly the Stone Age, it's like, why don't we have record of this stuff? 2005.
For the house down there.
Our system is,
That was the most recent house
No,
connection.
one of the houses, I don't know the most recent. Okay.
It's challenging because of all the different systems that we've used, and then
Yeah.
the way, like now we track them in a specific program, we just started tracking them in like 2 years ago. Then so some of the data I don't have access to on my computer. I don't know that I even have access to that today.
and then yeah, like Meg said, when addresses change, then it's not necessarily updating our system. We don't have a perfect system right now. But that's something that we're working on.
The real question becomes, because we allowed others in that same way.
I don't know, 2018 as
Yeah.
well. Is time of the essence on this because there's a pending sale on the property, or is it just they're just trying to get their ducks in a row so that that property is more marketable?
The request came in as, and it is a family member of the current owner. Wanting to know water is available for future development. So,
I love the mindset
They own a
to
lot.
table this, and maybe get a little more information, better understanding, and then have that conversation we're gonna have later.
Yeah.
But I agree that clearly, we put in a water main to these properties. At that point, the intent was to provide water to these properties.
Right.
They've taken a long time to exercise that right, or presumed right. So I don't think we're in a big rush. Anybody else?
I would agree.
Well, yeah, but that's, I mean, like, there's no impending deadline here.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, so we could have time to get things clarified, I mean, that would probably benefit. That's how I would see it, same as mine.
Yeah, I'd love to know what lots 1 and 2 have for water within this specific short plat. I mean, the water main could serve 4 lots, it could serve 8 lots. You know, what we did in one subdivision, we don't necessarily have to mirror in another. I don't know, I feel like we need a little bit more information first.
Oh,
I should pull that and maybe even just county record, like finding the availability from the plat too.
Yeah, that would be great. Any historical documentation, if there's any way that we can get some information, I mean, you know how the county records are from the 90s. They're all in the basement. We've spent time down there before. But there might be some information that can help lead us to the correct answer rather than trying to figure out what easement language means as far as the whole plat is concerned.
That gives us some time to.
Yeah, I mean, they can sell the property with or without our decision, so. Yeah, I'd love to make sure that we're doing it correctly and not just giving away more city water.
And I do apologize for jumping the gun on this. It came in process and I was like, well, I can't make a decision. I'm gonna put it on.
No, it's great.
I do apologize for kind of.
It also really flagged some questionable language in our code, and I'm excited about that conversation in the next couple of items. Because I think that definitely needs to be holistically addressed. I'm not really sure why we adopted that language to begin with, so. I will be part of that conversation later tonight.
Just curious, we were wondering if the other houses are connected to city water. Do they have a meter?
Yeah.
Do they receive a bill of city water?
Digging.
That should be kind of pretty easy to see if they
They're,
getting a bill.
it should be.
That doesn't mean that
It will
we
be.
knew that there's still historic things that happen where people are cut off the back. We still have a mess in our system, which is what happens when you have a system that was originally built out in the 60s that you don't clean up now.
yeah,
But yeah,
so actually the infrastructure is there, essentially, right?
the maintenance.
Maintenance,
We can pull some history for sure.
Okay, so do we want to just put that discussion aside and move on? And we'll-
yeah.
Do we need to make a motion?
No, we can just
We're
not do
just not
anything.
doing. Okay, our next item. Community development parking regulation.
Yeah, this should be a pretty quick discussion, because this is just I wanted to put it out there for you all to just know that, the planning commission is starting discussions on this topic. We did have, a parking analysis done by Transpo Group, and that was in your packet. I think you may have seen it earlier, but I just wanted to make sure it was on your radar again about, looking at our parking minimums. They haven't been overhauled in nearly over 15 years. And basing that on data, transportation and, parking actual data. And not just comparison to other cities and communities, kind of looking at it all holistically. So I really appreciated their analysis, and that some things may not work for our community. But I did incorporate the table that they put together, into a draft. It is not by any means, finalized. This has not gone to the planning commission even. We are actually discussing this next week, but I wanted it in front of you just to get initial feedback so that we have at least an idea of, are we on the right track or not? And really, this is just about the parking counts and then a little discussion about P and Blue and what your vibe check is on that. Simon on the planning commission did put together a little write-up. We didn't get to talk about it. We're actually talking about it next week. And so, getting some feedback from you all tonight will help with that discussion next week with the PC, because your input is really gonna help drive that, because they can't make decisions on fees and that. So, tonight is just really more about feedback from you. And if I can help answer any questions or, fill in some gaps. This is again, not all inclusive of the updates to the code. It's just those two main topics. We don't need to spend a ton of time.
I had some feedback.
Yeah.
One thing I just noted on Simon's analysis of the land value plus construction costs, I just want to, I guess, just encourage to compare apples to apples. When we're looking at the cost of a parking garage, a covered parking garage, parking spot, compared to what he did, and it's a rough math on basically clearing a spot and putting some asphalt down, right? So the cost of the land and the asphalt, that's, especially if you're looking at replacing a downtown parking spot, there is much more to it than that. I happen to know. And adding covered parking in my parking spot, plus dealing with the water surface runoff, all the stuff that goes with it, it's way more than this initial assessment of cost. So I would say not ignore that, but start, but the parking garage estimates is much more realistic of what it truly costs to provide a parking spot for a commercial property. And this land value construction cost is not quite there yet.
And I think that kind of is what I don't know, as I was running through his analogy, he was trying to give like every single type of option, and he threw this together very quickly. But I think ultimately that was kind of where they were going to.
His opinion at the end more so landed on what it costs to build a stall in a parking garage.
Yeah.
As being a more realistic price point for the inlet. Yeah.
And so I guess the question is like, it's coming up with, is it going to be a flat fee? Is there gonna be a fee based on the type? I mean, would it be something that you evaluate annually or every 3 years? Is it something where he gave some, he threw a lot of ideas out there, and this is nothing, these are just things to consider. Do we want to do an analysis? Do we, also, like, do you like the change in the code with, for, like, right now, there's an exemption downtown, and the whole idea here was. Right now, you can build up to 10,000 square feet.
Yeah, I think the intent of us addressing all of this and it being on the planning commission's docket is to eliminate the exemption downtown. So it doesn't matter what you're doing, if something triggers parking, you either have to provide parking or you pay the fee for the parking that you would be required to put on your commercial property. Because we're just continually precipitating our parking problem.
And do you have any concern with, and I threw city engineering here, I don't know why, I was like, should it be? I guess who should make the call on when, or do we even need to, should we just say the city may authorize a PLU, or? Does it have to be an authorization? Can it just be, you either have to?
Well, I think the developer gets to choose, or the property owner gets to choose, they're either providing parking on their parcel, if somebody down in this downtown zone isn't already fully developed on their lot. Otherwise, the only option that they have is to provide vehicle.
The developer may.
At least that's how I read it,
Yeah.
right? So we need to stop
Right.
continually making more parking problems.
Yeah.
Well, I would say too, that I didn't see anything here, I didn't get a scour of the documents, but that required that money to go towards actually, there was a reference to it. But I don't like the idea that we're gonna charge, say, $100,000. And then not have a covered parking space for these people to stay in. I think that we need to get on that side of, our part of that deal.
Yeah.
Is so we need to actually put that money towards
It would be
Place to
going into
our
park.
place to park, yeah, so you don't just put it in the general fund. and-
Right.
Yeah, we need to put it
It goes to the parking lot.
and then we actually have to create parking space that can be stated overnight. Right now, our options for overnight parking is pretty. For.
Well, this wouldn't be just for overnight parking.
This would
This would be for any downtown.
Retail, yeah.
Retail that, is just open during the day and that sort of thing, so. It would go into the parking fund and should really help us fund our parking garage.
Yeah, that's my whole plan. I think
Yeah.
that I can't cover every possible scenario, but if I wanted to build a hotel downtown and not put parking in. I guess would need a place to stay, to work. And if I was gonna give $500,000 for 5 stalls to the city. I'd be pretty pissed if there was nowhere for them to
Well,
park.
you're gonna pay a lot more than that at building a hotel. But you'll also get to use your entire lot
Yes,
and not have to encumber with parking.
yeah,
So
I just wanna make sure there's
you
parking.
get,
Yeah.
you get more hotel rooms in your
That's-
example.
For the record, I'm not doing that.
Alright, so that helps,
I liked the transpose recommendations for how we can adjust how we're assigning. Parking units or parking stalls for different land use category, those sorts of things. How we can make adjustments, where we're deficient, kind of where we're over requiring parking, those sorts of things. I thought that their analysis was really good.
and. What I think is how they also talk about taking this and looking at our district use chart and kind of cleaning it up, so
Yep.
they work together. And I like the table format, it's so much easier to read if you look at the way it's written now. A lot of the uses even in the current code aren't even in the use chart and are relevant. So cleaning it up so they match each other and making it more broad, so it applies to more, I really liked how they did that. If you look at the very last page of the transpo group, it really, it showed how they took multiple uses in the use charts and they did that. Kind of compiled them into a single use. You can kind of see their thought process there. So, again, this is a starting point and there's gonna be a lot of cleanup, and then where you change one thing, you have to change definitions, so it's gonna be a fun process, but I just wanna make sure we're kind of on the right track.
As far as industrial goes, I think that might need to be broken out into different types of industrial uses.
Okay.
I'm thinking of some industrial uses like even the brewery, right? They don't have a lot of people on site. It's mostly people just running their brewery stuff and they have their like packing and facilitation. There's not a lot of need for a ton of parking stalls because they just don't have a lot of people on site in there. So I feel like we also want to make sure that just because it is a large warehouse with a lot of square footage, it doesn't necessarily trigger a need for a lot, right?
Yeah. I agree, I feel like I haven't looked at the industrial really, and
And if we're thinking of kind of expanding our light industrial district in some sort of way, in the future. Then I think we just need to spend.
Yeah.
Maggie, what does shared parking reduction credits look like?
so I think that is more, we kind of have something similar, like a joint use parking, but this is just looking at the hours of operation or the intensity of uses and having kind of that, they have provided an analysis and gives them like a 25% reduction or something based on that overlap of uses. Or maybe it would, like, you're not designating. Or like, have a draft, something. That I could bring to you.
I was just curious.
Yeah, no, I started kind of drafting. I'm trying to give you a good example, it's like, if you had, I think of more like a mixed use building.
Right, yeah.
Where you've got multiple uses, and somebody might be coming here, but they're also gonna visit here, and they might just come in one car to visit multiple uses. And so you wouldn't need multiple cars for all those different uses. I think it's more for mixed use type development. And from the right, that's what I got. From the transport groups now. I'll provide a better answer.
Mr. Mayor, can I give an example of a mixed use that they're talking about here?
Sure.
A church and a light industrial. So churches are parking on Sundays and evenings, and the industrial is parking during the day. So they're using the same parking at different times. We see that on the west side, and we see
Business
that.
parks do that.
Right.
And we have that in code right now, we have that as a joint use, but the shared use is for here to the mixed use.
Good. That's a great example, Ron. I actually used that type of parking lot over on the west side this last weekend. In a
And we
business
do have, and we do.
where they like or like a winery, when they host big events on the weekend, they rent or share the use of the adjacent business parking because they're only open Monday through Friday. So it's really great to not have too much parking rent, because it can just be used all
Yeah.
the time.
I will-
So they analyze the overlapping uses, they have an established agreement, have on file, so it's just good.
Is there long-term occupancy restrictions for future use? Just to make sure that those.
Yeah, I think it has to, yeah, we have that on file, and then as uses change, we have to do a business license, things like that. Make sure the agreement is still in place, it's for the length of the use. And if that agreement goes away, then use. Alright.
So my mind's went over to racing, if this is just not the right time to get into the weeds, I was going back to this land value construction cost thing, I was thinking. If a developer builds their own parking spot. And say, let's just say the cost for them to build it is the same as, that we're trying to make those numbers align. Then they own it, and they can charge their guests $30-40 a night, like people do all over to stay park car for 24 hours. But if they pay that, that cost to the city in lieu, and then the city owns that spot, then the city makes the revenue off that spot. Seems like there's got to be some sort of meshing of those values. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
There's just maybe.
And that might be where there's that percentage difference.
Yeah.
right? So, okay, we're gonna,
That's something to consider when you guys are talking about it.
Why does there have to be consideration in that? I understand what you're saying, right? But also the fee's the fee, and then the city can do whatever they'd like with it, right?
Yeah, and I guess I don't know, maybe I spoke strongly, doesn't have to be a consideration for it, but if I were thinking from we talk about equity a lot, and if you were gonna say, like, what is the value of that lot? Well, if they give us money to build an extra parking spot, say this development pays for an extra spot in our parking garage that we didn't have to pay for, yet we get to collect the revenue on that in perpetuity, then that provided the city much more value than they got out of it.
Not necessarily.
But if we use it until the end of time and construction costs go up, then essentially we should just reimburse them every single year, because essentially it would be paid for, it'd be zeroed out. But we're not looking into the future.
Yeah, I agree. I wasn't prepared to actually be like ready to come to a consensus on that. It was just a thought. It was a thought that there's something to talk about there. Is all.
Right, right. But if they had to do the parking and they didn't want to because that would take too much of their space.
Yeah.
Then that's their advantage.
Yeah.
Is they
It's
just
their
put more of
choice.
their production.
Right.
And then they are gonna pay us to take on the parking burden and the parking revenue.
One
But that-
type fee, and then they get to expand their business larger than
Yeah.
they would have been paid.
Yeah. But anyway, but you're right, that's too much in the weeds.
Who knows? Setting this, like our daddy has our.
I appreciate what we got.
Are we ready to move on? to that big discussion that Tim's been waiting for.
I love it when we clean up our code and make it easier. to
Water
use.
supply standards.
Well, yeah, that is what we're really trying to do here, and, if nothing else, I hope that our previous agenda item made it clear that this is really unclear right now, what we have written in code. And that's why I have this as a discussion, and then, my goal really is to have something in front of you as an ordinance at our next meeting if possible. Just because we do have a lot of these that come in the UGA, I'd like to clean up our code now. And then we can continue improving. I have no problem if this is something that we continue workshopping, but there's language that I would really like to have clear, so when water availability comes in, we have clear direction for how to proceed. Now, using my favorite quote, I don't wanna let best get in the way of better. So anyway, there is some markups in here. I'll kind of walk through them. Starting on the second page of tab 11, that's in your packet. The biggest thing that we're looking at with this section G that is crossed out is taking the city administrator out of this entirely. So for any connection outside the UGA, it comes to the council. I think that makes it easier because this says in here the city administrator may approve. And so that way all of the approval authority for outside the UGA comes to you as the council. Selby has no problem with this.
None whatsoever.
And then in section G.
Now is my best fight tonight.
Not at all. In section G, 1 through 4 in here, the specific hardships were moved down to, on the next page, to the council approval. So the council approval section, just in number 2, sorry, this is really my jumping around, but in what is now labeled as G, the city council approval. The number 2 in here said after purchase of property, apply to the applicant is due to unique and unexpected circumstances over which the property owner has no control, is what the council would approve on. It doesn't give any more details, so that's why I did include the language that was previously under city administrator, but pull that down and said that could be including but not limited to these things that could be viewed as hardship. More than anything, that's because that was already in code, so I am just kind of moving the section that's applicable to. With the specific property that was brought to you earlier tonight, that wouldn't fall under these specific hardships because of the date of that plat. It wouldn't qualify under this plat date. And like Maggie said, when she dug into the history of that date, that's the date upon which the city became GMA compliant. And so it seems like what happened here is they said, okay, if anything before GMA compliance, we would consider a hardship. Anything after the city became GMA compliant is not a hardship. And then some of this is just a little bit of cleanup through here. When I get down to label as number 5. Right now, we do have water, so
That.
Just add it, maybe it's.
it was out of there.
Did you refresh it after the?
It was email.
Oh, his email.
You want me to print you a copy?
No, I'll just take it from Shane. Yeah, it'll work. I'm down enough right now. I
I
missed it.
might, some just so I can scroll through it, but,
It's on the online packet.
I'm just.
Okay.
Okay, we're examining.
Online.
Oh, we'll just switch to my.
Well, you pulled it up, can I ask you a question?
I'm sorry, just now. I just pulled it up and it's not there.
Should be.
I pulled it up, it's there.
I'm looking at it.
It might be something there, if you already downloaded it, you might have to clear your.
Oh, maybe it won't override mine.
I'm gonna let Shane speak to that, I don't actually know the on that, okay.
My tab 11 is.
I don't wanna talk about clearing cash. I mean, give me your cash.
This. Get rid of all of those. Maybe I need to pull up and refresh the whole page.
Yeah, refresh the whole.
So big picture, right now, the way our process works is, for a connection inside city limits or outside city limits. someone who's interested in a connection fills out a water availability form. And it's basically a Department of Health form that's been modified to be specific to our system. So that's the first step in the process. Inside city limits is pretty straightforward. Outside city limits, outside the UGA. Is now where a water availability, before staff would sign and say that water is available anywhere outside the UGA, that would come to the council. Right now, what we do is we dig into all of this history and see what happened, and generally, if someone has already paid for their connection, that is how we're saying, hey, this has been approved. It's not until we've dug into this, because a lot more of these have been coming in. It's like, oh my gosh, maybe we were doing this wrong. So that's the water availability piece. Then, after someone has water availability and they want to actually connect into our system, they fill out a water connection permit. So on the water availability form, it says that that form is only valid for 1 year. What has been happening is people we fill out that water availability form, and they take that to the county. It's the county health district or the health district. So in there, for someone building outside the UGA, they say, yeah, City of Leavenworth said you can have water. That's what goes on their plat, is City of Leavenworth being water source, even though our water availability form says it's only valid for 1 year. Historically, there were letters written, there wasn't always a form, there's years of old crazy things that have happened where these have been issued in different ways that didn't necessarily have an expiration date. So that's where a lot of this weirdness has come from. Is that wasn't saying that you have a connection, but it's just saying, yeah, as of right now, for the next year, we said you could have water if you move forward with the process.
Within a year's window.
Within a year's window.
Okay.
But it's not like the plat lists anything about it 1 year, it just says City of Leavenworth's water source. So that's availability. Then when someone comes in for their connection, they fill out the water connection permit. They submit a site plan, pay their system development charge, they have a meter charge, an inspection charge. Off the top of my head, it's $6,000 or $7,000 that they're paying for that. There historically wasn't an expiration date on that either. So even right now, we have someone who was issued, like they paid for it or issued their permit in 2021. And their permit still stands as valid because I don't have anything saying that their permit is expired. The interview system, like Maggie said, it's much more clear. All of this is in there. Their expiration date is 1 year from when that water connection permit was issued. But with all of this history, what's happened is the code says we're only allowed 3 ERUs per calendar year to be connected. Does that mean physical connection? Does that say signing water availability to say that it would be connected in the future? It's not clear. So on number 5 here, what I'm trying to do is say, when a water connection outside the UGA has been authorized, and we're saying that can only be authorized by the city council under the code revisions, the applicant shall complete the water connection permit and pay for all applicable fees and system development charges within 1 year from when it's approved by the council. If not, it's considered null and void. That way we don't have people who are coming in, like some of these 15 years later, who are now wanting to connect. So then, after the water connection permit has been issued, if the applicant hasn't completed the physical connection within 1 year, i.e. when their water connection permit expires, the whole approval is considered null and void as well, including the city council saying this will count as one of our 3 ERUs.
So does that essentially give them like 2 years to build?
Yeah, so really from the date that someone comes in and asks for council connection, they have 1 year to prep and save money for their fees in order to pay for their permit. And then 1 year from when they pay for their permit to actually hire a contractor to come and excavate and then are approved to make the connection.
Okay.
Is there any possibility of an extension if, I just think
Some
about,
construction projects take a long time.
yeah, I mean, that's the only thing I wanna make sure that's enough time. It's reasonable.
I think if there is, I like that a lot because oftentimes there's a winter shutdown and, various different things for construction depending upon when you start and that sort of thing, there's a lot of. If there's the intention and they have started their construction and they just haven't gotten to the connection point, is there a way for us to extend that?
It's not prohibited in that way, we can absolutely modify it. The hardest, from my perspective, the hardest piece when there's gray is enforcing the gray area. I mean, I feel like the most typical thing that we see is someone's wanting to move forward with water connection, but say they don't have the rest of their design finish or they don't have their building permit, what they'll do is just pay for the water connection permit and actually hire a contractor to come in and just sub utility up to the water meter. Now it's in, now they can come in and connect on the other side at any time. But if
And
we
then
do
they're not
not
held
have,
up by the building process.
yeah, if we do wanna have like an extension process in there, I would just want some direction on what specifically you'd want that to look like.
When do you generally see people transitioning from their connection permit to actually making their connection with the contractor?
Most of them are pretty quick.
But in their whole process of design, building, permit, construction, when do most people actually make that connection? Like, stub it out.
I think most seem to make it, well, it varies. I would say pretty early on, but not necessarily, you have.
And I feel like that needs to be a part of how rigid we are or not rigid we are in the language. Is where is that typical within the design, build, construction sort of process?
I've been thinking like just in the last year, it varied quite a bit, like on Orchard Super, like that was. I think their buildings and completed before they put in their water.
Or they connected.
Orchard, but
Seems like having water on site is not important.
Yeah, how do you do anything?
that's what you would think, it's not always that way, and then there's also some weird ones, especially if someone is on a different water source or in city limits, we've had other ones where like. People are replacing their connection when they're rebuilt, like. You would think that it'd be the first thing, but it's not always.
With the, yeah, a lot of times, I mean, cause we won't issue the building permit, we issue the building permit concurrently with the water connection permit. And typically they will make a connection before, like after they get their footing foundation, you know, so that when they put their plumbing, I mean, they can connect when they get.
So, and again, just to remind us that this is outside the UGA, so the idea here is the very limited. Availability that we're not looking to get a whole bunch of these. And
I know, but if they meet the criteria, I wanna make sure that we're not taking them through this whole process. And it's not a reasonable process, right?
Yeah.
And maybe could you build in like a one-time extension due to hardship and they have to come and request it and provide, like, just like a building permit. People have to request an extension to the building official, but they have to show why, that they've made reasonable progress. And that there's a reason, and it could be a financial, it could be they just have to show like.
Would it be reasonable for it to be 6 months or 12 months extension and that's it? That's
No,
all?
I'd say one time, 1 year.
Yeah.
I think that would be.
That's reasonable. Yeah, absolutely, that's reasonable.
Yeah, along the same lines that you already have in place,
Right.
parameters.
yeah,
So, just to be super clear, you're saying that is only from when you have the water connection permit until you make your physical connection. You're good with 1 year from approval to getting your water connection permit.
Yeah, okay, it's just filling out paperwork.
Yeah, and paying us, but yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I understand we don't wanna just make this like, hey, everybody come and get our water, but where did the number 3 come from?
that's been my question too, it feels very random.
I don't know the history of the three, I didn't dig into here. Oh, okay.
There was a debate.
What was the history,
Every
Shane?
time it's a challenge.
Can't recall, it's just that was the debate, they talked about 1, they talked about 5. And they voted, it said 3.
I personally would like to eliminate that because I feel like if we have reasonable criteria, if you meet criteria. then you should be able to get an approval. I think it needs to be criteria that is challenging to meet. Because I don't wanna just give away our ERUs outside the city limits. And so I feel like we could beef up our criteria a little bit. But I also think that it seems unreasonable to say, hey, you have to meet all of these criteria. But then if you're like the fourth person that happens to ask in a calendar year, you have to wait a year to the expense of your build and not being able to build another housing unit that we need here in Central Washington. Only so you can get in first in line next year. That doesn't seem reasonable to me. It's really right. Yeah.
If it's about water availability, we already have a process for that. Like, if we don't have the water available, then we don't give water. If we have the water, then why are you living as free?
Well, for me, it's more of, have you checked all the boxes and met all the criteria? Have you proven your unexpected circumstances within our code? And if you have, it seems like a reasonable ask.
Okay,
And that's, and.
But I also think we can beef it up a little bit.
that- I mean, there's water available out in a lot of that area that's out there because it was basically unlimited for a while that anybody could get a hookup. So there was a lot of lines run and things happening that. And then we went the other extreme.
About.
And yeah, branches we don't know. But then they went the other extreme for one, there's moratorium and none. And then I think then the debate is, okay, maybe we should have some. So I think that's that whole process, but just remember that again, the intention is to service our Rutherford residents and the growth that we need in our UGA.
Right.
Over just a bunch of hookups out there, just because the water is quote available.
But if someone has zero options.
Right, yeah, and that's
I
what
want
it's
them to have an
intended.
opportunity. Yeah.
With zero options, you can't get a well for one reason or another. Yep.
Andy, I have a question.
Yeah.
I apologize if I missed this or if you already went over this, but is there a reason why G5 or the whole section G was crossed out, red line, especially bullet point 5, transfer of water rights to the city shall follow the procedure found within RCW 9044-105? Did that get shifted somewhere else or?
it was listed 2 times, so.
It was listed 2 times because I couldn't find it anywhere else.
The specific RCW is not the right one,
Oh, okay.
so that's why I did not. put
Okay.
that down, so,
It's in D up above.
The
yeah, thank
So
you.
it's not, we don't have to follow any sort of RCW for transferring.
The RCW that, okay, so this is gonna be coming back to you, but this is where I'm like, I don't want best to get in the way of better.
Right.
I actually was looking back at my other notes for code revisions that we need to make, and one is that with our settlement with ecology, technically the water rights are not supposed to be going back to the city, they're supposed to be going back to Shawnee County. So that's another thing that I have to sort through my notes and where that came from, but I have that from somewhere I made a note in my phone, like in the city.
Yeah, right.
But if they're getting our water, we should be getting.
So
It says that my notes that I wrote to myself say that is inconsistent with our settlement with ecology,
what is there?
our water rights settlement. That it says it needs to go back, anyway, that's why I don't wanna get all of that until it's.
Sorry, Ronnie.
Well, it's a great question. We could have Tom look into it.
Does not make any sense.
No.
I would be interested to see what our attorney said.
We
Yeah.
should be getting there,
We
right?
can ask, perhaps, really ask for.
I'm sure I got that from Forbes, but anyway, I just have it as like
Okay.
notes of things that I need to fix. So with that being said, for now, it's just listed as transfer of water rights. We will give you way more detail as I clean that section up.
More to come.
Oh,
Okay, thanks.
And like even these edits will help with a path forward and it's clear for the public and then clear for staff. Because I think over time, there hasn't been a process of knowing how many we've been issuing. I know there's been more than 3 and there have all come to you when they should have, so this will just really clean, so.
And then the other piece, that I was gonna detail, if we do leave the 3 ERUs. Is, I added some additional language on what it means to have a connection, So in section 7, for the purposes of the annual ERU calculation, a connection shall be counted on the date which the city council authorizes, because right now it's unclear. Is that when we sign the water connection permit? Is that when we sign the water availability? Where are we actually counting? Like, what specific action is triggering that counting as one of the?
Is it associated with the 1996 plat that we agreed to?
That makes sense because that's the only thing we have control over.
No, that's for sure.
We can't control when they actually
Come in,
big and
do that, or.
Well, and I would argue that we haven't made any of ours this year, according to our current code, because we agreed to them decades ago.
Right.
And we just reauthorized
Right.
it. It was already on the face of the plat, so there really wasn't a whole lot for us to do.
Right.
I would say that those are not new connections we agreed to this year. That would be my argument.
And that's where we're just wanting to be so clear so that there's no question that otherwise, like I said, we were gonna draft an internal policy just. So staff has something to reference, but. We would love to have it codified so that it's.
So if in the future, those ones, would have long expired.
Yeah, so that is the thing. Those are
They didn't
the-
exercise them.
And they have to come in and apply for basically hardship through the council.
Would they have expired though?
They didn't.
They're on the face of the
Say if they
plat.
happen now, if after we do this.
So even if that one property was to come in, like.
I don't know if we can say no if we already agreed to it and signed the face of the plat. That I don't think that we can say no to.
That's where it says technically right now, under that city council, or sorry, under the city administrator portion. That if the plat date wasn't before that date that we became GMA compliant, which this one that came due earlier today is, but that doesn't count as a hardship. Now, it doesn't count that you can make a decision if you wanna edit this to say that that would be a hardship. But as it currently stands, that wouldn't be a hardship.
Where's that located, Andy? Sorry, with.
I would take issue with that, especially if a developer has a signed plat that said we agreed to water 30 years ago. We would provide water, and now we're saying that we won't.
Now, as long as that, but that's kind of, that's a hardship. It's a hardship, it was before the March 2nd, 1996, but I think that one was 1997 or 1996, yeah, so it must be a hardship. But. Also though, I would say that. So the A through D as it's copied here was direct, well, slightly modified, but basically the language that was in the city administration section. But as the council, it does say. By the applicant is due to unique and unexpected circumstances, including but not limited to. So I would say as the council, I would interpret that as being your authority to decide, is that something that. Whatever the language is unique and unexpected to the property owner. And that's where I think if you want to take away the 3 ERUs, we would say. The council has the authority to rule on whether or not that's a hardship.
I think we want the criteria to be really clear and detailed to begin with, though. So that there isn't a lot of ambiguity. I understand that the council also has the ability to look at other extenuating circumstances. But I feel like the general public reading this code needs to know what their criteria are for being on this.
What they're-
It can't just be, oh, can I go plead to the council for something that's not listed, right? Because then it kind of just opens up this door, and I don't want it to be that ambiguous.
Should be like criteria similar almost to a variant, like
Yes.
not do their own, you know.
Yes,
not variant
absolutely,
criteria.
you know, and is there a shared or a group well in close proximity, something like that? Is there a group well connection available, or, you know, there's like. It's pretty hard to not drill a usable well out in the UGA and out in the county here, so I feel like it's. Hard to, we need to make it hard to connect to the city, but not impossible, right?
I guess, yeah, with what you're saying. So, for example, taking on the property that we looked at the water availability for earlier. Do you think that it's a hardship that they have that on their plat? Say it said City of Leavenworth, so it was abundantly clear.
Do you think that that's a hardship for them, that they should be allowed a connection? I'm trying to figure out how you.
I feel like I don't have enough information on that specific example, because we also didn't have the northern plat in the information, and then we don't have any historical documents from 97. When those plats were being reviewed and what that note truly meant. And there isn't anything on the face of the plat, like there was on the other ones that we approved earlier this year, where we literally agreed to give the water connections. That wasn't on this one tonight. So it was.
Okay, so like the criteria would be a lot more specific than just the 11 is listed as the water source.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Because the note on plat says 60-foot easement. Utilities of this, 6-foot easement and ingress area and utilities for the lots of this plat along the easement to the city. For installation and maintenance of a water system. Does that really say that they're gonna be
It
served
doesn't
with
say
water?
connections to me.
No, it says that there's an easement.
Easement in case.
Yeah.
That's why it was,
Well, does that mean that we're gonna put a pump station there?
right,
Or does that mean they get connections? I don't know.
and then it says the source is water system. Water system. Yes.
Right. So, yeah,
That's ambiguous.
So you would want it to have it be explicitly clear on the face of the plat. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to get really clear on the language that. Or other documentation, because those other two, it wasn't on the face of the plat, it came later, they had an agreement, and they signed.
Yes.
And they abandoned.
but they made it really clear that we had already agreed to give them a water connection.
Yes, because there was a reported document.
Yes. Versus this one tonight was not clear to me.
Okay.
And we don't even know if the other two developed lots are connected to our system or not, or if they have wells. We just don't even know.
And that was hard because those two were already developed with houses, so.
Yeah.
Haven't connected yet.
Yeah.
What is the feedback on these? I guess how do I zoom on yours now? Oh, I don't know either, I'm trying to have the. Oh no, that's gonna be really. Little computer, okay, I'll make it worse. Sometimes it.
That's beautiful.
I swear I know how to use computers. No, I'm just, okay, thank you. I guess feedback on like A through C. What are your thoughts on that criteria?
Do we ever make people try more than one attempt? I mean, could it be based on like the size of the lot, the size of the lot that was. Seeking our approval tonight that we just bypassed. It's a pretty big lot. Multiple attempts could be made and one of them might be ground fruitful, right? So is it worth putting in that we would like more than one attempts depending upon lot size or something like that?
Yeah, we have. This is where this has changed so much, but there's the old water availability form that we came across that talked about like. If you have at least 5 acres, there's this many attempts to drill a well required that, I'm assuming used to be what our code language is because it was on the water availability form, but we could do something similar to that.
I think that would be good, depending on lot size would dictate the number of attempts. I don't know where to land on that, honestly, but
5,000 square feet. That's what a city lot is, it should.
Could be, is there, I wonder if there's recommendations from all this, right? Same like lot size and criteria.
yeah, that's a really good suggestion.
Because they have minimum lot sizes for wells.
So that's what I'm saying.
And the wells with septic, they should be outside the city, so they'd be on septic too.
For the existing well criteria under B. I would also wanna see some documentation that they worked with a well driller. To manipulate their existing well to be a higher producing well, because I know that Tumwater Drilling does that for people out here all the time. To help them with their wells so that they better produce. Sometimes it's like, we can do things so that your mineral content just isn't so high, you're not, clustering up your filter, all the things, so. I think that there's a couple of ways that they can show that they've done what they can with their existing well, and it's no longer producing enough gallons per minute to be a residential eater, essentially.
I have another question. Yeah, I know it's getting like water's kind of a big deal.
It is a big deal.
So we really. So we talk about outside of the UGA is like almost like
No man's land.
we don't really care about these people. We'll help them out if they have hardship, but because we want to protect our water supply for our residents. But if we get the water rights from these lots assigned to us because they're going to connect to our water, then we are expanding our water rights as a city 1-to-1.
Only if they come with water rights, not all of them have them.
Okay, so let's
Like the one tonight didn't have any water rights.
okay.
Because they haven't drilled a well. You get a water right, like if you get approved to drill a well, if your well stops producing, you have a right associated with that, it can be transferable, but like, not all of them.
Okay, so let's say we require water right transfer, whatever, for whatever, however way they get it, they have to obtain water rights and then they transfer that, so we basically are now keeping our capacity 1-to-1, it's a net even, but we are increasing our customer base, and we have priced our water rates according to what it costs to supply that service, and we've got a water main running all the way down the road anyways, so is this such a horrible thing if we have the water to make more connections and have a more robust system? Is that such a bad thing?
There's an existing water right to transfer, and if we can legally get that water right transferred to us, because remember they said that they needed to dig into the RCW to see if it has to go to the county or if it can go to us.
Yeah, so that would be obviously something we'd have to make sure of.
Right, we have to make sure.
I'm just thinking like, it's not bad for us to build our system out a little bit more. I mean, there's economy of scale. If we have the water available and we have the water rights 1-to-1, then I don't know why we would make them prove hardship. You know, maybe they just, if they come to us and say, here's my water rights, and confirm that works. There's a water main running right by, I pay the connection charge, that helps make sure we have capacity, all that stuff together. Doesn't seem like such a bad thing.
I think on a really small scale, it doesn't have a big impact.
Right.
But if we had a large number that came in, like when we're looking at our system capacity, it's not only our water rights, but it's also the capacity of production. It's the capacity of the main that serves that area, it's the reservoir capacity. I won't pretend to be an expert in water rights, but one of the other things too is like the irrigation districts have more senior water rights than we do. So even if we obtain their water right, then there's still a scenario specifically, I guess I'll talk about that, I still think that's a little bit more straightforward in my mind. But if there's not enough water for the more senior water rights, then we have to cut back our water consumption, whether or not we have a water right that we obtained from someone as well. Because those ones are more senior for us, so it's a lot more than just, yeah, we should allow connection. If
Well,
it's
you
like
can't
water.
just take the irrigation right and issue a residential ERU. The water right has to be transferred with the Department of Ecology into an equivalent residential use. And there's a whole process to that.
So I think if it was like, you have the max of 3 a year. Unless that like goes ham and we have a ton, every year we have all of these that come in for the next 30 years.
Right.
It's not gonna really make that big of a difference, but if we don't have a cap on them and we just say, okay, yeah, come anything. The other piece that we're seeing is so many AUs that are either trying to connect or they're trying to get around specific language in our code in order to connect. And so there've been way more ADU development in the county that are wanting to be served by our water system, but as the code reads right now, they can't. Because we do say that a lot, or a water service can't split and serve more than one structure.
Right.
So then they could come in for another water connection. I would be really, really hesitant,
Yeah.
but
it's-
what you wanna see, that's just my staff perspective.
You also start getting into, if you're gonna start supplying with water, you're gonna supply with fire suppression. Right? On your fire system, and that's a whole nother level of.
Nothing's free.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, I also don't know anything about like the GMA compliance with that, because I think the state was in here for a reason as it relates to the Growth Management Act, and so I don't know what ramifications that could have too.
All right.
Says a lot of legs.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on, like,
One thing. Go down that hole.
Maybe there's limited whack, yeah.
I guess I'm curious, just so that we could start in this process and then knowing that this is, I think there's a lot going on here. And I think there's a lot that we need to sort through and in not letting Best get in the way of better, how would you feel if I incorporated the feedback that we have here, leaving the 3 ERUs in for now until we feel that the specific hardship language is shored up enough? And then, in talking with Tom Grastra, he doesn't feel that this needs a public hearing, that this can just be an ordinance at your next meeting. So in order for us to just clean up this section of code, we can continue workshopping, making more modifications and implementing. Are you comfortable if I revise based off the feedback, leave the 3 ERUs in here for now until we feel that we have clear enough language to take out later, but for now, give us more clean direction when these come in?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, I really appreciate it. We
We'll get something.
spend way too much time dealing with. This section.
Can we also agree for the remainder of the year, and obviously this is open for discussion, that we haven't really given connections away this year? The ones that we approved, we had agreed to like 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And we were just checking the box,
Yeah.
saying, yes, we actually did agree to that on that plat 30 years ago. I don't feel good about saying our connections are totally gone this year.
Yeah.
when-
And I think,
Do you know what I mean?
and I agree, like, when Andy had that note highlighted in there, we talked about it right before this meeting, and we pulled each one of those, and we agreed, if we're considering a connection, like, based on this year,
Yeah,
we're not gonna consider those,
okay.
because we didn't have this put in.
Yeah, and I apologize, that was my mistake that was my note to myself for us to connect, and I did not finish that, so I brought you an incomplete write-up to that, I apologize. But
No,
yeah, anyway, we're trying to figure out, but yeah, I think that's totally valid, and as long as, I mean, we're in an open public meeting, that's clear, that's the way we stand, because it's not. I don't think it's abundantly clear in the code, we will operate, because we have not issued any of this.
Yeah.
Except for the one Sylvia issued. We don't know anything about that one.
I don't issue, I deny.
Well, they already did their system development charge and brought in their receipt,
and it's like, and it was on Facebook Live.
so we're like, oh, you have water, you have water, you're next to
There's
the.
one there.
Yeah.
There's not.
Anyway, very, thank you for all the feedback, I really appreciate it, I know it's. Technical and probably quite boring, but for us, it's like very.
And board.
But important, but important.
Mr. Mayor, is there room for public comment on this issue?
Yep. Go ahead.
Come on up, Ron.
Ron Duncan, 224 Cascade Street. I appreciate the council reviewing this and with the serious deliberation that you've been doing to protect the water for the city residents. It's super important. In responding to Councilman Bedard's question about basically as a business, adding more water and getting the revenue, what's the harm? I would comment that the farther away the water service is, the more expensive that is because of the line cost, the line maintenance, and all of this stuff. And so just the further away we get from the actual city, the more the city spends to service that water. So just on the 30-year-old commitments, you know, people ask for, on this issue, people are asking for availability so that they can sell the lot for more money or divide a lot. And unless there's a specific exchange, like for well rights, giving up a well was mentioned. I don't know how that the city has a responsibility to maintain a request for availability for 30 years without any additional action on the landowner's part. And in that, I would think that if the city were to restrict that the city would notify the property owners that there was an opportunity to bring this up to date or it was going to be released. And And in keeping with that, the city has gone from paper permits to electronic permits and closes out permits after a year regardless of what's been done without any notice to the permit holders. And so as the city's been taking an increasingly hostile approach to trying to charge more fees for renewing a permit and all of these punishing things, and the city doesn't do the basic courtesy of notifying people that their permit's expiring. Permit's expiring before they just close it out. And that's currently the city just closes out permits and they quietly disappear, and when somebody goes in, then they find out the permit was closed. So I think that as these policies are being adjusted, the city needs to be more responsive to people that have pulled permits and communicate with them that their status is changing, because there's no notice currently. Nobody tells the permit holder that the permit's expiring. So that seems inappropriate to then come up with punishing things because people didn't notice that their date was coming up from a year ago. So that was my comment on this code.
Thanks, Ron.
Yeah, they can say that.
It does have an expiration date listed in bold at the top of the permit, and the applicant has to sign that before the permit is switched to status of issue.
It's pretty available online.
It's pretty common for the permit holder to be responsible for their expiration date.
Not even a notice, not even an email.
It's in,
We're electronic.
it's on the. Okay, council reports, please.
No reports of dissent.
Dan.
I had a limited board meeting last week. It was our first board meeting with our new CEO. And he continues to just implement our existing 2026 work plan. And he's leading the charge pretty well so far. Leavenworth continues to lead with monthly boardings on Lake Transit. We're up above 21,000 boardings a month, which is pretty awesome. We have 3 different lines that come in and service Leavenworth, so that definitely helps. And then yesterday I was part of the chamber contract meeting. And that went really well. We had a good in-person meeting, talking about expectations for the new contract, and direction for the new contract. So we're making some headway with the chamber and have something this fall. For Councilmember.
All right, Zeke.
Let's see, so I and Mike attended the Housing Advisory Committee last Thursday. I had a great discussion, kind of debrief briefly over presentation of the cottages, and then came up actually with Carl's idea to have a booth at the block party to explain law layout, timelines, and what we're trying to do as far as the housing committee, what we've accomplished so far, and just keep that in front of the public that we're actively engaged with this, and this is the one project is right across the street. You can see it, and just keep that in our own mind. This is where this is one of our main emphasis, that this is what we're getting done as a city for affordable housing. So there's that part you can add to that. Really like. Also, back, I'm gonna let you do the rest because you made it. You got the information from Inland Construction. All I've done here about dream talking, so to do that part. And then at the downtown steering committee, we took a tour of the city again. This is our second time, and I find it was always super valuable because you get a group of people, downtown homeowners, chamber, the city staff, and you're walking through this route and things come up, discussions get started, and it really does spawn a lot of ideas and considerations. And so that's what I witnessed today, was a lot of good interchange, all 3 areas. And Courtney always takes great notes, so I think we're gonna have some ideas from that tour that are gonna be real valuable. That's my report.
I think the report.
Travis, you wanna go in order?
Yep, sure. I don't have a report. How about that?
I feel like I usually have the least, but I apparently have a lot. Let's see, on the 16th, I went to a meet and greet with a candidate for county commissioner. And asked some really tough questions in front of the engaged crowd. And on the 20th. On the 20th, mosquito control district meeting. Nothing really to report there, continuing to watch the landscape change as the water recedes, just new and exciting ways mosquitoes are finding to breed because of the flooding. But they're staying on top of it, and a lot of the growing pains that I've talked about in the past really get ironed out. The manager's doing a great job, and the mountain is coming along nicely. Seems like it's good. You've seen mosquitoes someplace before. On the 20th, same day, had a Zoom meeting with Ann and Rob, and we were introduced to Inland Construction, who's out of Spokane, and they, similar to the gal that kind of talked to us last study session about low income housing. They're a developer that focuses on that. So keep learning more and more. And I've extended the invitation to them to come to the Housing Advisory Committee. We're also reaching out to several names, but the gentleman here that came, Glenn and the gal that he was with, we're trying to get them in front of the Housing Advisory Committee. So that we can kind of continue the discussion, see if there's going to be a way to move forward with those items. One thing that was really interesting, this is just a kind of an exciting thing, is there is a fund that is privately funded by again Steve Ballmer, and it was directed towards King and Pierce counties, I believe, basically to spur affordable housing. They will do up to $150,000 per unit in cash infusion into projects. That wasn't getting a lot of traction as much as they hoped over there to spend their money. It was $1.5 billion fund. So.
And it's not all spent yet.
Not all
Inland has successfully captured some money.
Yeah, so it's kind of just like, wow, like real dollars that are now available statewide. I can't speak to all the details, but yeah, I believe it's, got some.
Depending on the type of housing, we might put in a mixed use development, yes.
Yeah, so anyways, that was kind of fun. And so we're looking to find more information, hopefully keep spurring some projects for our community, which would be great. Had a housing advisory committee on the 23rd, shared that information with them, and we agreed to bring that to the bring them to the committee to try and talk about it some more. And then downtown steering committee. One thing I agree with Zeke, super fun. That was today to walk around with a mixed group of business owners and people who've been around a long time. You learn a whole lot about history, and you actually look at the problems that you're dealing with, and you have opportunities. Like today, Selby and I actually moved a bike rack in a spot that was really not well suited for a bike rack, and we just lifted it up and brought it over and put it in a better spot. And we solved the problem. Today, Selby and I solved the problem in real time. So no committee action.
We have your union. We have one, two more. I think we have one or two left to deploy, John mentioned.
Yeah, he said two.
He said two, and then we have in the budget to buy more in the marketing funds, so. Buy more.
And that's the end of my.
So we see mosquito recording to you or?
There's a email.
All night, super late at night.
Yeah.
Let him know you got behind mosquito.
You know what, I would really appreciate that. I would take that call. Don't share my number of general park.
So thank just from you. I'll just remind you that on the 5th is mayor's breakfast, and it comes with a big agenda. Just come and have a chance to sit with your the people that work here and serve us and all of that, so come and enjoy that meal.
Did you hand out awards to here in the breakfast?
I don't have award, I do acknowledge, the time that they've been,
Okay.
anniversary
Oh, yeah.
dates that are coming up, so I do that periodically, so this will be one of the times that I'll do that as well, but that's the only business that'll get done. That's it.
All right. Let's see, downtown steering committee, we might cover that. Ann was absent for the park advisory committee last week. We did have Glenn Peterson come in and present the same thing he presented to the council at study session about the mixed use development department. So, for some of the parking committee members, they were surprised to learn that we can't afford to build what we were planning on design for over the course of this next year, so. That was news to them.
Those that know the color of money probably weren't.
Questioning that, yeah. Let's see. Also attended the chamber contract meeting last night, and it was definitely it was a positive step forward. Also, parking is in the process of getting quotes for license plate readers for the one with Equinox. We did have our first residential zone get adopted. It's the Zeke's neighborhood.
Oh, yeah. Ash Street.
It's taking a bit of time.
Yeah.
It's taking a bit of time to get the signage up so we can implement that, and that's why the LPR is so critical. It would not be time effective for our staff to go through and hand scan every plate on every 3 hours to enforce that area. So that's why we're looking forward to getting LPR done. And next week, at your next meeting, 2 weeks from now, I'll be at the WCMA conference and the mayor's giving me a pass so that I can network instead of attend meetings. Oh, are we canceling the 25th or not? Do we know yet? We don't know until we left.
On the 11th, we'll do that. Yeah.
Watch out, she's gonna sneak you.
Not me. Just a quick reminder, under tab 6 was your transportation benefit district semi-annual report. Just remember, this is a great tool for you as you're out there talking shop with the residents about how great our retail sales taxes are, as well as our transportation benefit district taxes. The spreadsheet in there is 16 years of history since we adopted the TBD. Keep in mind, the TBD expires at 21 years. So we only have 5 years left before we have to go back to a vote. And I believe current law only allows 10 years now, rather than 21.
Well, they did only 3%.
It has to be, yes, they can be more. But $26 million in 16 years on transportation projects, so.
Wow.
We have been busy for 16 years, and 6 of that, by the way, came directly from the TBD itself. Also, your financial report is in here. Something I've been wondering and scratching my head for the last several months is why is the DOR not getting out my statistics on the industries? They're always about a quarter behind, but here we are, we're sitting in third quarter now of 2026, and I still have not seen fourth quarter 2025. So every month I've been watching this, and after March, April, I was like, there's gotta be something going on. So last month I did a little digging, found out because of the winter storm, they gave extensions to folks to do their reporting. And I don't think that means that they necessarily got to not pay their taxes, but they just didn't submit, I guess, final reports perhaps. But they have dropped fourth quarter, so in your next month's finance report, we'll have at least through the end of 20. That one I've been really excited to see, because when you only have 3 quarters of a year, it's very hard to compare that year to any of the previous years, so we'll have the full year. That's just kind of exciting for me. That's it.
Thank you.
I just want to update, we have our planning commission hearing next week, on the comp plan. I just released a packet today, so if you have any interest in looking at the staff report or attachments, it is all available on the website. That's all I have for you.
Andy.
Just a couple of quick items. We've had some challenges with Chelan County and including the correct staff on different notices for development in the UGA. So we're hoping to streamline that process. We now have one City of Leavenworth review email address so that people can't get left off, and then that'll forward to all development staff. So we're hoping to streamline that process. After the last study session, Autumn House set up a meeting with me and they have had a recurring bear issue, so we were able to actually finally get them over on waste management service, but they have a unique issue, two bears have gone into their garbage enclosure and a resident opened it to put garbage away, and there were two bears in there, so like immediately moving them over to waste management until we can get bear cams. Obviously, that's a huge potential for conflict. I'm not sure if this is on your radar. I can't remember if we've updated you, but there was more damage from the storm recently identified, the Gabion wall on Commercial Street between 3rd and 8th. I can't remember if that's gone out in an email, but I thought it put on here. Okay, so that was something that's being added to our FEMA processing and also with our insurance, but the Gabion wall, which on Fincham Hill between 3rd and 8th, right along the river, was undermined in that storm. It did come to our attention until I think 2 weeks ago.
River drop blown up.
What river drop blown up, and also now you can see that the curb and like the sidewalk is falling off from the curb.
Oh, is that all?
Yeah.
The one we just put in, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, just we're moving forward with that, and then I think it's probably going to be quite expensive, and then looking for either insurance or FEMA reimbursement there, but wanted to get that one on your radar. It was recently identified. And then Chris always shares the weekly stats with me on Icicle Creek, just for reference. So as of Monday, Icicle Creek was at 129 CFS, and we are diverting 0.8% of the flow from Icicle Creek. So for the water treatment plant. So something that he keeps tabs on and updates me once a week, which is always kind of fun to just understand our percentage, even as flows drop off. Look, we can see what we're.
What was the CFS?
192 as of Monday morning. So, yeah, he always makes a point to keep it under 1%, which is right about. I think as the river gets a little bit lower is when we actually shift what we're doing with the plant. For now, that's just our normal flow, but maybe it's kind of interesting. And then the last piece, I don't know if I've updated on this before, but our wastewater treatment plant has had a couple times since the December storm, a toxic load that comes into it and disrupts the plant biology. But I just learned today we had another one this week, and we haven't been able to identify what it's coming from. Like our ecology contacts have been out. It's a very distinct smell, is what I'm being told, but it's not familiar. So anyway, we're sorting through. It's very odd. It first happened, I think it was the Saturday of our December storm, and this is either the 3rd or the 4th time that this has happened at the plant. The most substantial was right after the December storm, but it basically kills our bacteria. So our treatment decreases, our phosphorus increases. It takes quite a while for the plant to kind of re-correct from this and have good bacterial growth again, so.
That was the first we've seen this, was that storm, never before?
It's never been seen before to our operator's knowledge. So it's a very unique issue. There's not really an easy way for us. If our contacts in ecology, we're out there and have no idea, like.
Ask AI.
What was that?
Ask AI.
I've not asked AI yet.
AI distinguish smells yet?
Anyway, we're just right through, but just something to have on your radar, something that we're continuously trying to track down and figure out what could possibly align with these events and where this could be coming from.
And the last one happened within this last week?
Yeah, it happened sometime between noon on Sunday and 6 a.m. on Monday.
There's no specific time pattern or.
Well, it's happened different days of the week. One happened midweek, the December storm, I think it was Saturday, we thought.
But what's the gap between how often?
Random,
Okay.
yeah.
It basically kills off the bacteria. Essential bacteria.
Something deadly's getting in.
Yeah. It's, described as a really sweet smell. Anyway, so more to come, but if anyone is aware or hears
Right.
anything or sees anything, like, please keep us in the loop. We do not know what's happening here. And that's all I have.
Amy, do you know if we have any other buildings on County Shop Road tied into sewer other than us?
I don't know off the top of my head. I apologize.
All right, I would entertain a motion.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? And we get to go.
Have a good evening.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, feels like you're.
Bye. Thank you.
The city.
Yeah, I'm sure Karen.